Taylor's going to tell us about chapter 9.
No, it's not on the screen anymore.
What?
It was on the screen, and then you said aha and laughed, and it wasn't on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's
Oh, well, yeah, it's kind of on the screen.
All right.
I can just go.
Go right ahead.
Yes. Chapter 9. Constantinople, Persia, and the Arabs.
Persia and the Arabs.
Or the Sasanians, or Sassanid Empire.
Or as he likes to call them, Iran.
Yes.
We just tell people what the Romans called them, though, so they're Persians.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to start off with some of the problems that existed for the Byzantines and the Persians. I noticed there are a lot of similarities, like issues that they had to deal with. One of them being they had a lot of small nomadic groups that were on the fringes of their empires that didn't really pose much of a threat in terms of conquering, but they were definitely issues politically and economically. So with the Byzantines, they had to deal with the Huns to the north of them. Huns didn't really have an interest in taking over. They wouldn't really have been able to. They kind of just wanted tribute, and the Byzantines essentially had to pay them off in a way. And the Persians, they had the same issue with the Hephthalites, also north of them, towards kind of like modern day, I don't know, Georgia, Armenia, perhaps. And multiple times the Persians, they would try to kind of quell the Hephthalites, but they didn't succeed in doing that. And one of their Shah ended up dying in the process. I believe it was Piraz. But eventually they were able to take over them by Khusro the First. After, like, they're essentially trying to stall out this whole situation. They were borrowing money from the Byzantines in order to pay off the Hephthalites, so maybe not the best thing, and if you're not able to take over a small nomadic group, you might have problems there. They also dealt with some minority groups, such as the Monophysites. Their belief is that Jesus was either fully divine or fully human, but not both, and that was a bit heretical for the Byzantines, who were Christian, and so they were being oppressed in the Byzantine Empire. So the Persians, who were Zoroastrians, they were saying, yeah, come along, join us, because clearly you're being oppressed there, join us, because you're not going to be oppressed, but at the same time trying to convert them to their...
Not oppressed as much.
Yeah, exactly. So,
this is what I usually tell people about taking my class as opposed to other classes.
Yes. Weinman over Snyder or Lloyd.
No, I would never compare myself to those two gentlemen.
That's on record. That's on
I would never compare myself to them.
All right.
There is no comparison.
So
That can go two ways.
So I'm just cutting straight to the rise of Islam here. Based around the life of the Prophet Muhammad, believed to have been born around 570.
Are you displaying an image of the Prophet Muhammad?
I guess I am. He's
Be
got,
sure to state your name and your address.
he looks like he's got mascara on.
Man.
Is going to come for you.
He's trying to make it worse.
Oh.
Okay, go ahead.
He's looking pretty good right now. But a lot of this was based around some of his visions of Gabriel, Archangel Gabriel,
Yeah.
and certain things that he was told by God. Like some of the main beliefs we may have heard of, like the 5 pillars of Islam, such as like praying at certain times each day. I know the last one is at least making one pilgrimage to Mecca.
Right.
I forgot some of the other ones, but very like one of the main things about Islam. Another one of the big things about his life was his military conquest. So he initially grew up in a tribe. I don't remember exactly what they're called, like the Qadisiyah or something along those lines in the area of Mecca, and they were more of a cult group that worship multiple gods, and the Kaaba was what they used to worship this. And eventually, that gets turned after Mecca is captured, becomes like a holy place for Muslims to go to and see the Kaaba. So after he captures Mecca in 630, this is after he's already been expelled from Mecca. The people that he was a group of tried to kill him, and he ended up going to a place named Medina.
Medina.
And so eventually he takes over Mecca and controls it, and then dies 2 years later. Yet between capturing Mecca and his death, Islam had spread very far through the Arabian Peninsula. The governor of Yemen, which was controlled by Persia, which was mainly Zoroastrian, he converts to Islam in 630. So somehow an incredible amount of expansion in such a small amount of time. So these are some of the examples of military expansion that I found, all within a pretty short amount of time, and a lot of land that they ended up taking. They won. So I'm just going to point out some of the big ones, like Damascus surrenders. They also went at Yarmouk, which the emperor, I'm forgetting his name, Heraclius. His brother dies in that battle. Syria and Jerusalem surrender 6 years after the Byzantines finally take back Jerusalem. It's now taken over by the Arabs, who then take the relic of the Holy Cross and most likely destroy it. Egypt is conquered. Alexandria held out until 642, but was taken over anyways. In the previous year, in 641, Heraclius ended up, he died, and towards the end of his life, he grew a phobia of looking at the sea. I don't know why.
It's annoying.
It's a little scary if you don't know how to swim, but otherwise, I'm not sure.
Well, I think of sharks, red tide, jellyfish. Does the list need to go on? Go ahead. Drowning, riptides. Okay, keep going.
Later on, they end up they develop kind of a naval military and take over Cyprus in 649. So not only were they expanding on land, but they also were able to expand in the water. And then Constantinople was nearly taken through siege through 674 to 677. Pretty much the main reason why it wasn't taken is because the Byzantines used Greek fire to burn the Arab ships and prevent them from taking over. That was the limit at which the Arabs couldn't take. Constantinople was also a bit hard to get to from behind because of the mountainous area. So they're lucky that didn't get taken over, but still, the damage had been done. And with the Persians, it was even worse. All within 1 year, there was a major win at the Battle of Al-Qadisiyah, the capital of the Sassanid Empire, the Ctesiphon. It surrenders, and a large part of Mesopotamia is taken over. And the last Shah, Yazgard III, in 651, he's killed by his own men. I think it's kind of sad if you're the last leader of an empire and you end up getting killed by your own people. Although that happens a lot, bless you. It's sad that your own empire is destroyed because of the fact that your own people.
Happens a lot in my classes. They see me getting weak and they just take me out.
So that's the end of the Sasanian Empire.
That wouldn't happen to those other two gentlemen.
I think
They're stronger.
I think they'd be able to quell the
They
rebellion.
could do it. How did the Arabs expand so quickly?
That's a question that seems to elude many people. There's a lot of focus on the fact that they expand, but not too much on how that happened. And there's some speculation that maybe there was some fighting beforehand, before the whole, before Mecca was taken over. But was that such a great amount that ends up resulting in this crazy expansion. Another thing was maybe the Monophysites or the Jews, but that wouldn't make much sense because they were even being kind of oppressed or taken over by the Arabs through the expansion, so why would they help them? So,
One of the things is that, the Byzantines and the Persians had been fighting each other for quite a while.
they were military exhausted.
And they were getting, worn out, weak, however you want to say that way. If you ask a Muslim, he'll tell you, Allah. It's Allah's will.
So kind of like a Christian idea of providence, of leading.
Exactly, yeah. Same idea.
expansion. So, yeah. So, that's it.
Any questions? There must be questions. At least one. Everything's crystal clear? Really? So you know the 5 pillars of Islam? Ready to go? Okay, just checking. All right, just leave it there. That's okay. That's all right. Thanks a lot.
Very good.